it would be new card swipes for staff members to be able to get in instead of carrying around all of their keys that they carry. They would still need their keys for the classroom inside, but it would alleviate all the exterior keys and all of the groups and everybody else that has keys to our buildings. It's alleviating that security risk for people getting in.
It's also alleviating what we need to do when somebody loses a key and we need to rekey an entire building, which is expensive.
Is extremely expensive. Yeah. So you will see that throughout this placed in there. Again, it's a security issue. Next one is the carpets I was just talking about in the classrooms. Seclusion room relocation at LER back quite a while ago now. The STEPS program, the autism program was at LER, and that's where the room was placed, down that area. Now that area houses the pre-K students. So if there is a student that's in crisis, that student has to go down that corridor, down where the pre-K room is. So really, we would like to move it more centrally located in the school into an area away from that part of the building. And to do that, we need to install a new door. And with that said, doors are expensive, doorknobs are expensive. So a lot of the work, we're going to be able to take the padding from the other room and reuse it all. Really, the $8,000 is for the door and the door knob that we need to put on.
We can't use the door that's presently in the pre-K room and get another door for that room.
Right, so we can't. The door that's the area that's there, more than likely will be used for office space, and that space would need a door. So we just can't take the door from that room. So the room will be repurposed as something. So in case it needs a door to it. Yep.
I'm sorry, I thought that this was like a special door for that room.
Yep, no.
That was more expensive than
Yep,
just
nope.
a regular door.
Nope, just a regular door.
Thanks for
Gabe,
clarifying.
sorry, can you tell us, or can you tell everyone how many rooms that the classroom carpet you'll get for $10,000?
Sure, we're hoping to get 3 classrooms.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, that'll do 3 classrooms. Yep. Next piece is a continuing project, which we have in budget this year to do some of it. The school has just regular wooden fascia trim. Again, it's 35 years old. It's been painted over the years, but there are quite a few spots that have rotted out. And we need to go through, replace the rotted boards. And at most of the other schools, we have already wrapped all of the fascia trim with metal. And looking to continue on with that same process here at LER. There are spots that it's literally holes through the fascia, and you can see up into the attic. We've had problems with birds getting in there, so really need to get it covered over. Yep. Roofing's just annual inspection, same thing. HVAC is for valve and actuator replacement. So that's it at LER. Moving on to Riverview, there's not a lot of pieces at Riverview. Mostly, again, it's the entry door controls for the security that we just discussed. Same issues down there. Carpets, same piece. Continue on with that project. Regular PM checks for the roofing and the valve repairs. So Riverview pretty cut and dry for that one. Pittston door controls again. Siding replacement, we did do some siding repair ourselves and actually had some church volunteer do some work for us on the side of the cafeteria. So we're able to take some of that siding repair off the docket that we did over the summer, which we had actually taken all of it out of budget, but we went through and they offered to do some repair work for us for free. So originally there was 30,000 in siding repairs, so we were able to cut that down by 10,000, and we're just looking for 20 to do the K1 wing. So when you drive in the bus loop at Pittston, it's the upper wing that's there, just to do the siding, and it's sliding right off the building. And it's a composite siding, so it's not wood. It's, well, I guess it is wood. It's a composite, almost like sawdust. The only thing that's holding it together is the bit of paint that's there. As soon as you touch it, it just literally falls off the side of the building.
Seriously?
Yeah, it's the same sort of material. We've redone at most of the other schools. And at Helen Thompson, we had the problems with all the siding out there. So this piece here is one of the sections that was not as large of an area, and the sun didn't tend to hit it as much, so it didn't deteriorate quite as fast. So it's a couple of the last little siding projects, yeah, that we'd like to get done. The marquee sign, this is something that Pittston's been looking to put over there for a while. Other schools have looked at it. Again, probably not an emergency piece, but this is one of the pieces at that school over there that they've been really asking to do something with the sign over there. So I put it in there. This is the Pittston, we're just starting with carpet replacements over there. The carpet there has been replaced in the past 60 years at some point in time. So this is the second round at this school because it's pretty old. The first batch, the 3 rooms that we're doing are the rooms closest to the cafeteria and gym on that end. And those are the rooms that they are kindergarten, first grade rooms. So they tend to get the most use and they're worn very thin. Yep,
How is the carpet and the portables holding up?
good. Yeah, again, they're not that old,
Yeah, okay.
but they are holding up fine. Yep, they are.
Same type of carpet, the tile.
And the portables, it's not. The portables came with just a very thin pile commercial carpet. But it seems to be holding up because it is a very, it's commercial, it's thin. So it tends to clean up easily, and it is holding up. Yep, we haven't seen any issues, but eventually, depending on how long we have the portables, we'll definitely have to look at replacing those again. Again, to get 30 years out of a carpet in a classroom is pretty good. Definitely. Yep, so we'd like to start the carpets at Pittston like we've done at the other schools. We do have a roof section here, which is that K-wing. That section was built back in the 90s. It's original 3-tab shingles. So to get the 3-tab shingles to have lasted this long, we've had some leaks in some spots, and problem in that section, it's not drop ceilings like this, so you can't just go and replace the ceiling tile. It's solid sheetrock ceilings, so when we do have a leak, it's sheetrock damage in that area. So it's much more intensive to do the repairs, for sure. So that is a roof section that's definitely high up on the list that should be done over at Pittston.
You said that's original. When was that added on?
Yeah, that was a 90, it was in the late 90s, I believe. I'd have to look back at the dates, but I think it's the late 90s. So it's a little bit, I believe, newer than Helen Thompson, if I remember right. So it's getting close to 30 years, but usually 3-tab shingles are only 15-year warranty.
Okay.
So believe me, the roofing company, when they inspect it every year, they can't believe it's lasted this long, and it's only one layer, so it definitely due to be replaced for sure. Yep. Helen Thompson is, again, we pushed it off for the past, I think, 2 years to do the last piece of siding replacement over there on the kitchen side. And this is the section that the sun doesn't hit as much and it's held together well enough, but it's the last piece of siding that's over there. And again, you go up to it, you literally, if you hit it hard enough, the pieces tend to slide right off the wall. Entry door securities like the other schools. Like Pittston, we'd like to start the carpets out there, get the classroom carpets done. HVAC compressor repair if needed. Those are the things that normally go in there after the school. Middle school. Again, continuing on, our doors at the middle school are in pretty rough shape, the exterior doors. So we're able to do some this year, and this is continuing on. I'd like to replace the main office door, get that one completed. And then with that, we should have enough to do at least, I'm hoping 2 emergency exit doors. That the jams, the bottom jams are completely rotted and there's nothing left at the bottom of the doors. So I'm hoping to be able to get 3 doors. It'll be a stretch, but that's my hope, is to get 3 doors out of it. Again, entry door controls. This school here, we've been doing doorknob repairs on the inside, replacing a batch of interior classroom doorknobs. When they did the doorknobs at this school, they weren't as high a quality as some of the other schools, so they haven't lasted quite as long. So unfortunately, that's about $1,000 to replace a doorknob. Commercial classroom function doorknobs and get it rekeyed. So 5,000 is about 5 doors that we can do. So we've been trying to do those. Again, these are ones that we've pinpointed that we've repaired, and they function, but they have issues. Definitely. We did a roof section last year, shingles, and this is the other wing. We did 7th grade last year. 8th grade is on slate to do this year. And we do have in here, I have a boiler pipe section that comes right off one of the headers on the boiler, that the flange has deteriorated to a point where it cannot be just patched. So we have to actually take a section of pipe out, do new flanges and put them in. So 15,000, we're hoping to be able to get away with that amount. That gave me kind of a high number to point to, but we have to do it when this in non-heating time of year, because we have to literally shut everything down, drain the whole system, and replace that piece of pipe at my school. And this is on the boiler that's original from 75, so it's over 50 years old.
What's the pipe material?
It's steel. It's an 8-inch piece of steel, but with the flange that's there. The hard part is the flange on top of the boiler. It's actually a piece of the original boiler, so you have to have special certification to be able to work on and weld and cut on those boilers. So it's the special certification, and the only the companies that we found to do it, it's they're all unionized pipe fitters, so they're the ones that have certification to do it. But we have to get it engineered by the company that would be doing it, get the measurements. They have a shop, so they're hoping to be able to cut it out and build the piece at their shop and bring it in and attach it. That's the hope right now. Yep. So we're hoping we can get away with that.
These prices, are they just estimates, or do you have a bid?
On the boiler piece, they gave me a high estimate. Until they can get in there, they're not gonna know what they get into. There's a big unknown with the flange that's on the boiler. Whether they can find one, machine one, what they're gonna have to do. So that's why they need a time frame to be able to, when we cut it out and redo it. Yep.
You said the boiler itself is over 50 years old.
Yeah, it's the original boiler. Yeah, each of our high school, middle school, and actually at the elementary schools, the secondary boilers are all the originals. And then we have one new boiler that we put in 2014 when we did the energy upgrades back then.
Yep, that sounds right.
Yep. And
What are the chances that we're gonna have to start replacing those boilers? And
very high. High. That's not even in here.
I know it's not in here, that's what I'm
That
saying.
is when when ECM came in and did their complete audit of all the schools, that's on the list as a priority. And most of what they had in their audit is not even in here. We're not even touching on the $35 million worth of things that they came up with of repairs that should be done. These are things that are we're just getting by with these items, basically. We're not replacing boilers. We're getting by with what we have, and I do my best to keep the cost down on everything by trying to do as much as I can myself, and keep things going. Yep. I know, and we're barely touching on this stuff, and we're in the 800,000 this year, with a lot of things pushed back. None of this shows any paving or any of those items. None of that is even. Yep. So, all right, that's it for the middle school.
What
Yeah.
was the library furniture? There's nothing that needs a line.
So, yeah, that was something that we did the previous year.
Okay.
And last year we did science tables. Yep. Yep, so we are pretty much done with furniture there for right now.
Okay.
Yep, so we're doing good with furniture. High school, if anybody's driven around the backside where the gym is and you drive around towards the tennis courts, the wall that we've had issues with for years. We've pressure washed it, we've sealed it over the years. The masonry that's there, the bricks are good. The mortar between the bricks, there are sections that need to be repaired. And it is in the sections where the wall has moved when we had the high windstorm. It's been repointed where it had cracked in that spot, but there are sections that need masonry repair for sure.
Gabe, when the wind moved that brick wall, do you remember the cost of the repair, that the insurance?
It was hundreds of thousands.
So we were talking, I'm trying to think of, we were just talking recently at a meeting about our property and casualty insurance. So the state requires us every year to go out to bid, not every year, every 5 years for property and casualty insurance. And it seems like every time that it's about time for us to do that, we have a huge claim. And the last time we went out to bid is when he's right, we had a windstorm that actually moved the brick, one of the walls to the high school, which created a huge claim for us, so crazy. But
Yeah,
this
a
is the
lot of
same
the
wall.
work that we did at that time, it was all mostly interior,
Mhm.
but they did repoint brick on the outside in certain spots. But it's definitely, it's in those same areas. Definitely it needs to be repaired. And again, this is brick from when this gym was built. I doubt if it's ever been repointed, ever. In all the years it's been there. And that's over 60. So it's all original. Yep. Next line, C-wing panels. This is replacing the old insulated panels on the wall. You see a lot of most all the white ones are the ones that have been replaced. The blue ones are the ones that have never been replaced. So those are the ones that we really look at focusing on. Most all the panels, when we pull them off, they've delaminated inside and out. And the inside insulation that's between the two steel sheets is like powder. There's nothing there at all. So this is, again, another batch of doing a little bit at a time to keep replacing the panels that are here. Hoop field fencing has been taken out in the past couple of years. I put it back in there. There are at least 3 sections of the fence around the field that actually are broken in those areas. So we need, if we're not gonna replace the upright post, we need to at least replace sections of fabric to get the new chain link fence put on at least, around that field. Again, yeah, we have a brand new, almost brand new turf field, and the fencing around it's the original from, 77. So it's getting close to 50-year-old fencing. It needs, we've patched and we patched and we patched, and these are sections that need replacing. Yep. So again, just throwing a budget in there to get new fabric and for the company to go through and straighten and reset some posts, top rails, those sort of things to go through. Yep. The next one is dugouts. I'm sorry, I'm laughing. But we've, our dugout blew over again. So the away dugout on the baseball field blew over in the last real high southerly windstorm we had. Was it before Christmas, just before Christmas? I can't remember
that long
the
ago?
date. I don't know. I think it was.
Yeah, feels like just yesterday.
We've had it happen before. These storms that are blowing from the south, they are blowing at a direction that I swear storms have never blown before, especially this violent. And we thought we had this new dugout that we put in there, all anchored. They did more lag bolts. And if you look at it, most of the bottom plate and the lag bolts are all still there.
Yeah.
It pulled all the nails out of the plate and ripped the plywood apart and flipped it upside down. So I don't know if we need to look at building cinder block. Maybe somebody could design a Connex box as a dugout and put a big steel box there. But we need to do something different. So I put some money for a dugout, and also the home dugout has the press box above, which I've been told they don't really use the press box up there anymore, or haven't for a while. They kind of do it from down below.
Interesting.
That's what I'm being told. So whether we build a new press box and dugout on that side, or we just do the same two sort of home dugout, visitor dugout on that field.
You and I talked today about maybe approaching the athletic boosters to see if they'd be able to contribute to
Right.
some of the
A
costs.
matching or a contractor. The last one that was built, we did have a local contractor that, if I remember right, we supplied materials, they built it. And they supplied the labor to build it. So maybe there's, a way to do some matching funds, that sort of thing. See what's out there that we could kind of drum together, for sure. Door controls here at the high school, again, like the other schools, do the door controls. We do have major door issues at the high school. And they do cause a security risk over there. We are, especially in the wintertime, we are adjusting doors so they close daily. Every day we come in, there's a door that's not closing right. We go through and we adjust it. A lot of times in the winter, it is the frost that's heaving up and down. The new doors that we've been putting in, we've been leaving a larger gap across the bottom and doing a heavy duty commercial sweep on the outside that's a lot longer. Just so if there is more movement below the door, it doesn't jam the door. So that's what we've been doing with when we put the new doors in. And if you look at the doors, because they've been adjusted so many times, there's so many screw holes. And as we have seen over a walk through this weekend, parts of the frame and the wall, the whole thing moves back and forth. So
That's a little alarming.
we have to put some money towards the doors at the high school. And one of the big issues also at the high school, there are so many doors. The building is spread out, it's so big. There's a lot of doors. And really pinpointing, I feel with doing the new door security and controls, we will basically have to let staff know this is the doorway we are going to use, and not just use the closest door to their vehicle. A lot of those doors, they're there because they are fire exits, but they don't need to be an entry door for everyone to go in and out constantly all the time. Yes, we do door controls, so, there'd be one on C wing. You'd have your center, main entrance doors, and you'd have a T wing entry and gym, of course. But limit to those areas for entries. So those are your main doors coming in, and the other doors stay as fire doors. And we make sure, of course, they operate, but you wouldn't get the foot traffic in and out all the time on those doors. Just to help out, and with the new, we start off replacing the doors that we know are going to be used every day. Those are the doors we replace. Yep.
Would it be expensive to put an alarm on the doors that you want to be a fire door?
That is what we also discussed at the same time, to have a way on those doors to know if that door has been triggered open
Right.
by somebody. It happens.
It'll take a couple times, but if.
Yep, it happens. And there definitely is a way of doing it. We have looked into it. Again, there's a cost to everything. And who gets that alarm call? Where does that go? And trying to figure out all those protocols.
You have exit only signs on the outside of the doors?
Right, and that's a piece that we would definitely, with this whole process, making sure that people know that those are fire exit only doors, and designating entrances with signage, so everybody knows, routing people to the doors that are the entry doors, for sure. Yep.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry I missed the tour Saturday. I just I was in the kitchen. And I have to go now, I'm sorry to,
Oh, okay.
I was gonna kind of pick up.
Did you have a couple of questions from this?
No, I don't worry, I got questions. I mean, I see what's going on, this is what the world is, so. And you have to make decisions about everything. Yeah. And priorities.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, well.
Glad you could be here this long. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I just have to be two places at the same time, it's just.
Well, the good news is it's going to be live streamed so you can watch it.
That's true, too. I can go back and listen to it.
And you have some good reading material, Jeff, right there, so.
Yeah, I sit in bed.
And we're just getting started.
Or fire
having this
material,
conversation.
which however you want to refer to
Bedtime,
it.
fire.
Yes, he's right, we're just getting started, so.
Yes, we are.
Not the first time you'll see it, or the last.
Yeah, and the high school does have a roof section. Again, finding out that section 1 is actually the roof over tech wing. And that tech wing was done back in the mid-90s, and finding out that is the original rubber membrane on that roof.
Seriously?
So it's 30 years old. It's not been touched. So it's definitely, that's another
That should be our
priority
slogan.
one
It's
that
30
needs to
years
be
old.
replaced. Again, you know, the life expectancies of these items are 15 to 20 years, and we have always done well at getting by and pushing things and making them work to get them 30 years.
I'm flabbergasted by the number of things that we've paid for and accomplished in the nineties. Like we built
Yeah.
multiple schools.
We did,
Repaired, like
We-
where
we
did
did.
funding come from at that
Yeah.
time?
yeah.
We
Yeah.
need that funding. very
We need it
Riverview.
now.
Yeah, Riverview, LER, Helen Thompson,
Yeah.
the major renovation at the high school, that section, the Pittston Piece.
Was it
Uh,
state funding?
The state
Were we on a
fund-
list?
The state funded districts, public school differently
Okay.
in the nineties than it did. The 8279, when they started funding it based on property valuation and enrollment, that's when things really started to change. And if you think about it, the pie is the pie. Every year we just look at slicing the pie differently depending upon the district, so anyway.
So that's superintendent here. We have some window repairs. Anybody that works here, they can tell you these windows are terrible. I have found a company that will come in and they will replace the springs and jambs. And they will lift these heavy windows much easier. To get these windows open, you really have to put your back into it.
These ones even?
Yeah, all of these ones aren't used as much down here, but the ones in the offices upstairs, if you do try to open a window, some don't even open at all.
I think one of them fell out and landed
Yes.
on Noreen one year. Yep, so they are extremely, heavy.
They're
That was
extremely
years ago.
heavy, and we've replaced components in them, but the springs are so worn. So this is basically PMing the windows, going through, fixing springs, jams to make them actually operate, for sure.
Why do we open windows? Isn't it central air in here?
It is.
I don't mean to sound insensitive.
No,
just-
I know. It is, it's a piece, if we ever needed, in
Absolutely.
Andrea's office, there is a ladder.
Mhm.
If she was ever needing to evacuate out,
Mhm.
for egress, they do have to function
Mhm.
and open.
And while we have air in this building, Molly, there are several of us with issues with the air quality. We have old paperwork in the basement from years and years ago, that years and years ago, our basement was very wet, so we have payroll paperwork that is mildew and
We've worked hard to keep and it's an old granite, it's old
So,
granite still, we've poured concrete on the floor, we've done the drainage, the curtains on the side. Even with that work, there's sections on the back that when it rains hard, the water rolls across the floor.
And there is
Still.
still that paperwork in the basement that is circulating through that it's old payroll paperwork that we are required to keep forever. I would never ask anybody to go through it, well, we used to talk about, digitizing
We
it,
talked
but-
about digitizing it.
But at this point, I think that is old, and honestly, I wouldn't make anyone touch that if we don't go down there unless we get a call from main pers, but we just don't touch it. Anyway. That's why we open the windows.
Yeah, and the last piece, transportation office. We're doing door replacements this year. Again, the building was built back in the 90s. And it's the original carpet in that building too. And it gets a lot of wear and tear. Especially at the transportation office with grease that tends to be on the ground in the parking lot from buses. It's an old carpet. Thank goodness it's already brown. So, but it definitely needs to be replaced. We do the best we can to wash it a couple times a year. But again, we'd look at replacing it with this sort of tile. So if there is a grease stain or something, we can pull a piece off, put a new one.
And it's still a dirt colored floor.
And it is, this carpet wears well and it does last.
So things that aren't in here, for instance, is the LER cafeteria floor. Gabe and I, so as a reminder for people who are new, we have $150,000 of contingency in our budget, which really isn't a lot of money when you're talking about the size budget that we have. That contingency money is spread between three expenditure articles. There's 50,000 in general instruction. We have already used the 50,000 in contingency in regular instruction. As you remember, at the beginning of the school year in July, we had concerns about a kindergarten teacher at LER. The decision was made that we were going to hire another kindergarten teacher, and that is in excess of $50,000. So that contingency is gone. The second pot of contingency sits in special education. We have a number of special purpose private school placements that we aren't anticipating, and we have a large number of current placements. There are currently people moving in. We are aware of another student who is now moved to the district and is currently placed in a special purpose private school. As a reminder, those placements run between 60 and 100,000 per student. The last pot of contingency is sitting in the facilities budget. We wait to see what breaks down and what problems we're having through the year. But at this time of year, Gabe and I are looking at what we have left in the facilities budget. And one of the things is the $50,000. As a reminder, the state requires us to budget things by expenditure articles, so things cannot be easily moved between expenditure articles. We are eyeing at coming back and asking you to use that $50,000 to fix the floor at Laura Richards School. I'm going to have Gabe talk about what the issue that we're having with that, and Tag, you're it.
Sure. So the floor was put in 3 years ago. We have not had this problem at any other school when we have placed this type of flooring down. I've had two different contractors look at it, and the feeling that they have, both of them have, is the floor sealer that was put down prior to the new flooring put down has somehow combined with the adhesive that's used to put the flooring down. And those two components have basically liquefied underneath the quartz tile. Whether it was a issue with the two brands One of the companies has had it happen once before, but they had it while they were installing the flooring. So they have to be very careful with the type of glue and the type of sealer. And the sealer is to seal the old, they call mastic, the old mastic underneath the, that was originally put down for the flooring originally. And it's to make that sealer. So potentially the old mastic could have been a petroleum base. And the new glue that's there is potentially epoxy or latex base. And so those two would interact with each other. So that's what they're assuming, the two interacted with each other and is liquefied. Of course, it's well after the warranty of any of the work. So we are stuck with ripping the floor out in the cafeteria and putting a new flooring down. Or what we would like to do is rip it out, grind the surface of the concrete floor that's there and leave it for a period of time. Just to see if potentially there is not another moisture issue from below. We actually, today, we just put moisture sensors in the concrete floor. So that way we can monitor the moisture level that's in the concrete for a 24-hour period.
So talk about what happens when somebody walks in the cafeteria, which is really the reason why we
Yeah,
need to
so
do
right
this.
now, when you walk on the floor, if there's any, especially if there's a large group, and there is every day during lunch, even though the children are young there, it's enough weight on the floor to push the glue and the combined sealer that's now one out of the cracks. And it squirts up and has squirted on people's shoes, their clothing. So the more people on the floor, the worse it gets. So we've tried to put rug runners down to at least walk on that. We even tried this year thinking, let's put a floor wax on it to seal the top of it, to see if we can keep everything sealed below and it won't happen as much. Worked for a short period of time until all the kids came in and that was pretty much it. So yeah, it's been a struggle, it's been tough. So unfortunately, we need to rip up the cafeteria floor.
And when it squirts through, it's squirting through with gusto.
It is.
It's
There-
not just,
There have been people that
It's not
have
just-
squirted like up above on their shirt, up here, 5 feet off the ground. So
And though we're doing a really nice job maintaining the floor and making sure that it's
Yeah.
clean, we could see on our tour this weekend the markings of
Yeah.
worked. Yes.
believe me, the custodian is, he is beside himself. He's willing to do bottle drives, whatever it needs to be done to fund this project. So
Is it
we
not an
really need to
insurance
do it.
claim?
and the cost to repair that is conveniently estimated to be around,
I have not received the proproposal back yet.
what
I
we
have.
were estimating.
I hate to say, but I mean, we're talking upwards, we're $20,000 here, at least. To rip it out, grind it and put new flooring down. So our thought is, depending, some of this is contingent on the moisture sensor data that we will be getting back in about a week. If that number is low, where it doesn't look like there's any moisture coming up from below in any way, or the floor is not wet, they could have enough time to rip the floor out during February break and potentially put a new floor down. My feeling is if we can get it ripped out, grind it, let it sit, that way I want to make sure it's cured, dried. And even if at that time, once we get this flooring up and we get the sealer and everything scraped up off it and ground and do one more round of sensor testing, it's about $1,250. I think it may be a small cost to pay for the security of knowing that it is dry enough to put a new floor down. There is an option if the moisture is still high and it does seem like there's an issue and we do want to put quartz tile down again. They said that they've had very good luck putting a moisture sealer, basically a barrier layer on top of that floor to stop everything there. And then they would be able to adhere with the proper glue to that moisture barrier on top.
So as we go through our budget and as we start approaching the end of our school year, Gabe and I will start, and Katie obviously will, and the finance committee will start talking during our finance committee meetings to see if there are funds that we're able to use in this year's budget, in Gabe's budget, to pick away some of these projects so that we won't have to budget them. As a reminder, we have we have carry forward in our budget that we use every year, which is leftover monies from previous budget years that can only be used to buy down a budget. So we're kind of trying to land on a sweet spot, making sure that we have enough carry forward for future years. But at the same time, trying to pick away at some of these things that just keep getting kicked down. There are obviously things that we need to do, and as Gabe mentioned, we haven't touched any of the things as identified by ECM.
Yep.
One of the things that the three of us were talking about today is the possibility of perhaps going out to bond. It would be a conversation with the board about when we want to do that, whether or not we would want to do that when we go out for our budget vote, or whether we would want to stagger that, and what kind of projects we would be looking at, especially if we're talking about or potentially talking about consolidating our schools. What we would not want to do is to go out to bond for 20 years on a school that we may be thinking about replacing within that time period. So for those of you who were here, when we closed down TC Hamlin, it became an issue that we had loans out on a building that we were trying to close, and we needed to refinance and pay some of them, and it became very difficult and required a lot of legal work, which was very expensive. So we kind of want to be looking ahead, but we also want to keep in mind that we have things that need to be addressed. So I think Katie's going to talk more with you about how we're going to continue maybe with these conversations. You have anything to?
Yeah, I mean, then that certainly was a big part of our conversation as we toured buildings over the weekend, was just how expensive it is to continue to maintain. Not to mention make improvements to each of our facilities. And so in addition to the bond idea, we really want to think about what are the projects that we can hold. Again, it is not a wise decision for us to invest big in a building that we know we're just trying to continue to use until we move forward with the idea of consolidation. And again, that's ultimately a board and community decision to go down that process. For those of us who were around during the closure of TC Hamlin, like Andrea said, we remember that process. It does seem from a budgetary standpoint that we need to start engaging in those conversations around consolidation and what that looks like as a school community sooner than later, because again, we've been having this conversation around funding, and for every year that passes, our buildings are that much older, and Gabe is scraping by to try to get these maintenance issues resolved as quickly and responsibly as
And our
possible.
enrollment continues to drop.
That's really the biggest piece. Our funding will be significantly impacted by a decrease in enrollment. We have a decrease by 92 students between last December and this December, district-wide, and we'll feel that this year when we see the ED 279. And of course, anything that's not covered as far as state funding is picked up by local taxpayers, and that's just a challenge for all of our community members.
So again, the 8279 driven by enrollment, and the other piece is the property values. And as we all know, in the state of Maine, our property values aren't decreasing or do not seem to be decreasing anytime soon. So the state bases its expectation for locals on the property values, and it's not the values that the communities say that their property is valued at, but the value that the department, the state of Maine, the revenue department says they're valued at. So it's becoming an increase, a pressure for us as we're hitting both of those things. I guess that's a way of saying it. The decrease in enrollment and the continued increase of property values. So anyway. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, no problem.
I have a couple questions.
Yeah, go for it.
You mentioned replacing panels in the ceiling. How many would that replace?
It gets about 7.
7?
Yep, that's what we were able to get last year, 7 panels.
And when we were talking about the cafeteria floor the other day, is there an option to do like a poured floor rather than the tile? Like, is that savings?
Yeah, and it's not savings.
Okay,
Actually, I believe when I spoke to the company, it was actually gonna be a little more to do like the poured epoxy floor. But it's something, we do have somebody local here that could, and I let the flooring company know that there's a company local here that does that, so,
right.
yep, yeah.
If we did a poured epoxy, would moisture from below be?
That is still a concern,
Okay.
Even, so that's, the big key is to know what the moisture levels are, so that's why the testing is key.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is, and that's, I'm curious to see what it comes back.
Yeah.
For sure, and if we do it.
Did you have moisture problems when you first did the floor the first time? I mean, the second time?
No, so I mean, the old flooring that was there was crumbled apart. But whether that was from something from below or just wear and tear,
There's no
it's hard, it's
visual
hard.
cracks or nothing in the
No,
concrete?
when they pulled the old floor up, it looked fine.
Oh.
Didn't look like there were any issues at all. There's a sewer line that runs under there. We had that scoped and cambered. And that is 8 feet down. It's really low in that section of the building. So it didn't look like there was anything from that, no cracks or signs of anything. All of the domestic water lines all come from above. So there's none of that actually in the slab in any of that section. And it's odd that towards the wall, towards the outside wall where the windows are, there seems to be less issue with that. But as you move further into the building, there's more of an issue. So it is interesting. And so when we did the moisture sensors, we did a couple towards the outside wall, and I did a couple right down that main walk area to see what they are right there. Yep. So.
Is it like us washing the floor?
And I thought it was. And that's what I said. I'm like, oh my God, are you putting too much water down when you wash the floor? So we went literally a couple of weeks without scrubbing the floor. It didn't make any difference.
Yeah.
Didn't make any difference. We put dehumidifiers in there during vacation breaks or during the summer. Didn't make a difference. We come back in, it's still the same way. So it's once it's liquefied below it, no matter what we do, it is not changing.
It's not leaking from above anywhere. Down.
Right, so potentially, if it was moisture, if they put no moisture barrier below the concrete, I mean, with the rain runoff on the roof, it could be pushing up from below. But usually, especially this time of year,
Yeah.
it's wintertime, everything's frozen outside, it's like the driest.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where, at the other schools, we have the least amount of issues this time of year. And at that school, it seems like it's this time of year that we have more problems, because it's more foot traffic. It seems like the more foot traffic on it, the worse it is. So it's always wet no matter what. So the big key, I think, is pull the floor, grind it, let it sit, see how it looks. I mean, you can tell damp concrete versus dry concrete, it just looks different. So we'll know pretty quick once we pull it, definitely.
And then what does prompt an insurance claim? Like
Good
why
question.
wouldn't it be something we'd
Well,
want?
that would be under warranty. I mean,
Is it a
Yeah,
warranty? I mean,
They had a 1 year like contractor warranty. It's 3 years is well beyond
right.
any contractor. And it's not a, the flooring was fine. It wasn't the flooring that failed. It was the reaction between the two components that were used. And they really think it probably had to do with potentially those components reacted because of the old mastic below it. And who knows what that was when they put it down 35 years ago.
Right.
Who knows?
Is there a way to put it, if you do the epoxy, to put a sealer down?
And that's, I'm sure they could, and it'd be something we'd talk to the company that would do the epoxy to see if maybe the same process as my flooring company would do with putting that same barrier down, moisture barrier, before they put the quartz tile back, and maybe exactly the same process.
What a price difference between the epoxy and
I honestly, I don't know. I didn't get the epoxy price yet. I only got the quartz tile, coming. But I definitely can call the company to get them in there to look at doing the epoxy. And if we did it, it would be
Right.
during like April break, or right when school gets out, we'd do the floor.
I would say, let's get that bid for the epoxy.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And we can do it. I know with the epoxy floor, the flex they put in there, they can pretty much match anything.
Yeah.
Most all the flooring that's in the school now, it almost has like a fleck look to that quartz tile. So they could use the same colors and pull those into the system.
Which that goes into the
Yep,
entry area.
Entry hall, yeah.
And Molly, to answer your question, usually for an insurance claim, there needs to be an incident. There really isn't an incident that caused this, other than the fact that, I mean,
Destruction of clothing.
Damaging so many things, like.
Right. It's
I
like
know,
an
well,
everyday incident.
And we have found if it is something deemed a builder issue from the original build, we had this at Helen Thompson when we had the roof, the ceiling issue.
I forgot about
We had the
that.
insurance company come in and they did all the inspections, took all the photos, then basically took a look at everything and deemed that it was a contractor error from the original build. So we would have to go back try to get money from the contractor, and that contractor was out of business at that time.
I
So
forgot
they
about
denied
that
our claim because of
conversation.
that.
We actually talked about that this weekend on our tour.
Interesting.
When did we do this for? 2 years ago?
3 years. Yeah, it's been 3 years.
LAR is becoming the problem child.
I don't know that anything could beat Helen Thompson at this point.
Yeah, I don't know either, but this is
Although
certainly,
the wind
annoying.
damage to the exterior wall at the high
That
school,
was-
that really gave HT a run for its
that
money.
That was a rough.
Yep, that was.
Question, when it comes to consolidation and the numbers going down, is it possible to move 8th grade into the high school and 4th and 5th grade into the middle school and then do a consolidation? I'm not sure exactly, where the reduction is, because I thought we had higher numbers in the early grades.
I mean, we could look at steps toward consolidation like that. What we really would have to determine is what's the benefit? Because ultimately we wouldn't end up with an empty building. And then and I don't know quite enough about the state expectations as far as, let's say we were able to empty a building by doing exactly that, shuffling grade levels around, then we can't have an empty building and we can't automatically just be done with that and say that building is closed. We have to engage in a whole process for that. And so while we will have conversations that include exactly that, how could we ease
Into
overall consolidation? What I think that makes the most sense for us right now is and we've talked about this behind the scenes, and I think in spots, maybe on live stream in different meetings, what makes sense to me at this time is for Andrea, Gabe, myself to meet with representatives from the Department of Education. Scott Brown is a name that we've talked about because he's been involved in the school construction process at the department. And so it makes sense for us to have a conversation so that we can ask targeted questions and come to you with options so that we can begin to explore and start a committee to really, but I think even starting a committee yet seems premature because you sort of have to know what your options are. And we need to ask some questions about what that looks like. So it would be having that behind closed doors conversation to ask questions, reporting to you about how that conversation goes, establishing that we're going to move forward with a consolidation committee so that we can engage in the process and make sure that we're doing this in a way that isn't compromising the integrity of what we can offer our students so that we can be transparent for the community about why we're doing what we're doing and how this makes sense and go from there.
So Joanne, just so that you know, we cannot choose to just close a building. The community that the school is in has to vote on that. We need to allow them to vote to close. And it took, I would say, 4 or 5 votes for Randolph before we were able to close Randolph. And if we have a building and the school doesn't, or the town or the community doesn't vote to close the building, we are forced to continue with K-12 public education, which means that we just couldn't put a special ed classroom in there. We would need to conduct K-12 or some subset of grades in that school. So it's not like we can just choose to mothball a building and then move everybody. There would need to be votes with the community. The community would have to have the option of paying any savings that we deemed from closing that building. And Gabe and I know that from closing Randolph School before it was closed, there was still a lot of expenses with us owning a building that was not being used. We needed to pay oil, there needed to be electricity. There were a lot of expenses that still had to go on. The other thing that we're talking about is where we stand on the school construction list. So as a reminder,
Like 19th?
We had Pittston Randolph at 16th on the list of 95 schools. Oh, you're really gonna put me to it here.
sorry.
Our middle school was 46 on the list, maybe. The high school was 73, I think. Yeah, and everything else was lower than that, with I think LER being 91 of 95. So
being 16th means that we are not going to get in this round of school construction, but maybe we want to start talking about a locally funded project. So if we did a locally funded project, it would make sense that we start talking about where we would get the most savings from closing buildings. It seems in our discussion that we think that by closing our 4 elementary schools and the savings from those buildings, it would be easier on taxpayers to fund 1 schools, and we could get rid of a lot of duplicates and services that we have. So we're talking about cafeterias, we're talking about libraries and nurses, and doing something with being able to combine grade levels as opposed to grades being stranded at these smaller schools. So we would need to look at that to see what kind of savings we could expect from combining our elementary schools. At the same time, this conversation with CDS and us assuming child fine for grades 3 and 4 and having to ages 3 and 4 and us having to provide services, looking at a consolidated school we might start to discuss having like maybe a pre-K to a CDS wing for those smaller kids, like a 1 to 2 wing, a 3, I don't know what it would look like, but being able to accommodate all of the things that we expect to have to deal with in years to come. I guess I don't know how. But those are the conversations that once we get more information from Scott Brown, that the board would need to have as we decide how we're going to move forward.
I would think that one of the things that would be an issue is that if we can't do this, or if communities are unwilling to do this, other things are going to have to be cut. So, you know, sports programs, anything that's not essential to education, even things like, well, you know, busing, you know, we just can't do this anymore because we don't have a budget. I think that's the only way that some communities will come around and say, do you want these extracurriculars? Do you want sports? Do you want busing? You know, otherwise we're gonna have to start cutting. There's nothing we can do, and frankly, you know, we should probably also be talking to the Department of Education on how much money that we go into test prep and testing and time taken for those things, and see if we can start pushing for maybe less testing, not every single grade, not 3 times a year, not, you know, it gets kind of crazy because we spend all the time with testing and teaching to the test because we need to get these metrics up. And we're gonna have to be cutting other things that would be much more beneficial to the actual education of students.
As a reminder, last year, our budget failed in West Gardner, which is ironically the town with the lowest mill rate. It came close to failing in Pittston. Gardner, Randolph and Gardner passed the budget. I know that as we are currently speaking, that there is a committee at the state level looking at the issue with property taxes. It's obviously an issue here, but it's an issue for communities throughout the state. They are looking at that. I keep getting emails from their legislative committee that's looking at that. I haven't seen anything substantial. I'm sure there's a lot of talking to be done to see how they can deal with the rising cost of property taxes, but it's an issue.
Hard conversations.
Yeah.
You know, very difficult decisions to make.
And there's a lot of things going on at the same time, you know, the loss of main care, there are people losing health insurance. There's a lot of things in play right now, so,
Well, even just our own health insurance
Right.
costs are gonna probably go up minimally by 10%.
as a result of everything that's going on with health insurance, as other people lose their health insurance, there'll be more uninsured, which is going to cause an increase, obviously, to hospitals and providers, which will then get passed along to those of us who have insurance, private insurance. So, it's gonna be a problem.
I
So-
have one last question, sorry. The current year, is that on track to be spent or the projects to be
Yeah,
complete?
it's close to it. Yeah, we've done a lot of the projects.
Mhm.
There's always a small handful of projects that I hold. Just again, not knowing, I've been here for a while now, not knowing what we were going to run into
Mhm.
during the year.
Mhm.
So Andrea counts on me for carry forward, so.
I
Not
do.
just me.
And we,
But that's why we've learned over the years to hold off on some projects. So those are the projects that we do April break and the very end of school. And some of those projects we piggyback with a project, especially the continuing ones. So like the fascia hasn't been done at LER. So more than likely I'll get the contractor and they can do both sets. They'll do one set at the end of June and then finish the project the 1st of July, and it just gets split between the 2 years.
Okay.
We've done some of that work before.
and $50,000 in contingency may sound like a lot of money, but not when you're dealing with 6 facilities and where things cost so much. Like, it's a drop in the bucket. So I appreciate you holding
Yeah, and that's
onto your
again, you
projects
know,
as we come in towards the end of the year.
I don't know how you do
But
it.
that was
really.
520,000. Well, the
Seriously.
funding's fit, right?
Duct tape, I mean,
It's,
Yeah.
it's a lot. I mean, it's,
Mhm.
and when I get the calls, I try to be there. You know, today, I mean, it was the kitchen at Riverview, there was an issue. And Linda called me and I jumped in my truck and I went down and I was able to fix it for her. So those are the pieces. Again, you know, Linda's not here. Her equipment in the kitchen, like my equipment,
yeah.
is 30 some odd years old. It's the same way.
More, yeah.
So, you know, I do what needs to be done. I go down and I will fix what needs to be fixed. So I got the oven going and they were able to serve lunch. So that's what needs to be done. That's what we do.
The
Yeah.
problem as these budgets get tighter and tighter, it gets to be personnel versus
Yeah.
everything else, and we keep asking you to do more with less.
Yep.
And now we're starting to see it like in the ECM report.
Yep.
And as our buildings age, so we are very cognizant of the
And I
things that
mean,
need to be done.
contractor
Yeah.
wages, I mean, they feel the pinch too. Their wages have all been going up. It's expensive to have somebody come in. It's not just their hour, it's the travel fee, it's the truck tool fee, it's all of those things that are added onto it. That cost a lot. So if I can fix it and do it myself, I will. And now Andrea didn't need to find in this year's budget for a new oven. But I'll put in a plug for Linda. She needs a new oven next year.
Yeah.
At least at River.
Linda gets the school nutrition program typically gets either a new piece of equipment or a couple of pieces of equipment, depending upon typically $20,000 or $25,000 worth. So we look at replacing things before they break down. But again, everything's
Sometimes.
gotta come
Sometimes you
from
don't get
someplace, right? Right.
Yep.
So as a reminder, on the next on the next finance committee, we will be looking at the ED 279, which is a lot of me talking again, or some more. I will go over with you how the state funds school districts. Specifically, we'll be looking at our ED 279. Hopefully at that point, we'll have our state subsidy for next year, and we'll compare it to how our ED 279 compared to this year's, and how it resulted in either addition in revenues, which I don't expect, or losses in revenue, and I'll show you how that plays out. And we'll talk about that so you have a basis of understanding of how schools throughout the state are funded. So.
Andrew, I have one more question. With the reduction in the student population, we have several of those outside trailers. Are we getting to a point where we don't need one?
So the problem is 100 over 6 schools in various grades. It would be easy if we lost 25 kids from the second grade at, you know, in one place, but that's not how we're losing students. It's throughout, so.
It was like 92 last year and then another 92 this year. That's why I'm saying if we consolidated some grades, we might be able to possibly not need one.
The portable?
Yeah, portable.
Yeah, again, if we did have a consolidated elementary school, I think we'd be different. It would be,
Yes.
we wouldn't be having the same conversation, but because they're 4 elementary schools, middle school, high school, spread out amongst all those schools. The way I think if I'm saying it right, the way the scenario we have right now with the grade separations the way they are, it's not possible. If we were gonna look at a different setup where grades are moved to different buildings, maybe. But there again, I don't know if we're at that point to
And even
figure.
that is a community decision. If we were to
Yeah.
just say we're gonna do
Yeah,
anything
that's-
that moves,
And during, again,
People's children.
I had just started working here during the process of closing TC Hamlin.
Yes.
And I do remember there, you're right, Becky, that discussion all came up too about redistricting is what,
Right.
you know, what we called it then. They were gonna redistrict and move students to some different schools around to try to get it all to work. That was a huge discussion.
Huge discussion.
But you're right, I mean, if we're even looking at moving grade levels around and again.
And then by the-
It's a bigger conversation
And
than
we
we're gonna
own the
figure out today.
modulars.
We do.
So
We own
We own
two of the three
Two-
modulars.
two of the three
Two
modulars,
modulars.
and by the time we get to making any sort of consolidation effort that's real, we will own the next one.
Mhm.
And those, as we discussed on Saturday during our tour, those could be very practical and useful to us as we are making, because they can be moved anywhere. And we can do, and they're beautiful.
Yeah,
They're
by
just,
doing the walkthrough the other day, the trailers are actually better than our schools.
that's correct. They're not trailers, you know, they are.
They
I mean,
are.
Absolutely
They're our
beautiful.
newest, they're our newest
Step
buildings.
up, anyway.
They're our
Yeah,
newest buildings.
they were
It was,
brand
it
new
was
and
really funny when we talked about adding modulars to Pittston, nobody wanted to be in the modulars. Do you remember that?
Until we set them up and they all
Until we
walked
saw the
in.
modulars,
I
and then
wanna be in
everybody
there.
wanted to be in the
Yeah. I mean,
modulars.
they're just, they're
So,
absolutely
yes,
beautiful. They still
yes,
have new
they
car
are.
smell.
Yeah.
They are,
Sure.
so.
They do.
I mean, the challenge is with enrollment, different in different places, whether we have 9 or 10 students in a classroom
Yeah,
or 15 or 22, we still need a classroom, and that's
and that's the issue
the
we
real
have.
challenge.
It's never a third grade in one building. It's 2 here, 4 here. It's
But, I mean,
It's
depending on the
complicated.
scenario that is decided,
Yeah.
potentially they can at least be used as a tool in transitions.
Correct.
We do have them.
correct.
So yes, there would be a cost if they were moved to another school site. There would be a cost to dismantle and set back up somewhere else,
Yeah.
but it's doable. It's definitely doable and they can be used, even if it's only used for a year or two during construction or renovation, whatever that might be. They are a tool that we have at our disposal to use.
And
For
they're
sure.
new and they're beautiful and they're air conditioned and they have clean carpet
And residents that have lived in the district for years.
Yeah.
There's been portables at the high school over the years. There's been
Yes.
portables at the middle school over the years during different, again, like this, during different phases, different constructions, renovations. They've been set up at different schools over the years.
But you're right, they will allow us to have flexibility as we go through this
Yes.
process, right?
That they will allow flexibility.
And Gabe showed us how they come apart.
At the
from-
seams.
At the seams. They just come apart at the seams if we need to use one piece and not another. So-
I mean, when they brought those units in, I'm like, they are never getting those back there.
Uh-huh.
And you know what? Within a day, they had them all back there and they were all sitting 12 inches apart. And then the next day they came and they slid them all together. It was quite
They
something.
knew what they were doing.
And
Like
part of the
like they knew what
process,
they were doing, right?
They definitely have done it before, that's for sure.
That's perfect.
Yeah, they've done it
part of the
before.
process will need to include being mindful of the number of transitions we're expecting for students. And so
Correct.
I don't
That
think
is
anyone here is proposing that we would do
No.
this year 1 and this year 2, but
No.
we know that a transition from building to building is a big deal and takes some mindful, thoughtful planning and preparation. And so that is another thing for us to consider.
Again,
As we're
another
thinking
huge
about these
consideration
decisions.
when we changed LER from a K to 5 or pre-K to 5 to a K2, 3, 5. That was a huge part of the consideration of how many transitions are we
Yeah.
creating for our youngest students.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah,
something
you
that
know,
we really
busing
need to.
overlap and
Mhm.
working all the transportation bugs out of it
Yeah.
if
And-
students are gonna be shifted.
Not
And
an
that
easy
was-
magic one.
Also in response to, we had the two new buildings, Riverview. The population was at LER, so you had one school, LER, which they were busting at the seams, right? Because, and then you had Riverview where the population in South Gardner was starting to lag. So you had one new building that was at capacity plus, and then you had another building that was running less than full and trying to find a way to optimize that. So, yeah, that's how that came about.
Mhm.
We've had a lot of interesting conversations over the years, so.
Yeah.
I think these are really helpful reminders to the community that this is
Mhm.
not unfamiliar territory.
No.
No.
It just feels bigger because we're not just talking about those individual communities.
Mhm.
We are all experiencing this significant decline
And it's,
in
and it's,
enrollment.
yeah, and it's not anything we take lightly, I'm being part of the TC Hamlin, being part of the Prey Street, being all these things, having watched and been part of those things, it's really unsettling to the community to have any piece of their child's life upset, and that's really something we have to consider.
Mhm. Yeah.
And it's not new, but it's something we have to really keep in mind.
Is-
We're trying to do the best we can.
Is there anything that anyone would like me to add to the February finance other than the 8279? Is there something? Sorry, Molly.
I feel like when it's the ED 279, that's it. It's the one and only item.
I think I'm busy that night.
Right?
Bring a pillow and a blanket.
And not hearing that tonight. Please don't add anything to that.
I did
Don't add
pencil in
anything.
CATC presentation because it, depending on
Are we gonna
availability.
start with finance or are you going to do it at the board level?
I was going to see what
Yeah, whatever
the
they
two
put.
administrators have
Okay.
available and offer either
Let
as
me
an
know.
option.
We have some time.
I will.
When are we
Aware.
going to know how much the health insurance board is gonna go up?
So definitely, we will not know definitely until approximately the first week of April, which is very close to the time we have to have our budget set. However, we will hear sometime in May what the high is. So this year I am going to start off.
In May?
March.
March.
We need March, not May.
A month, sorry. So
We can
this
have
year,
month.
I am going to start at a budget percentage higher than I've started in the past few years. We've seen our medical loss ratio. I know it's much higher than it has been in the last 2 years. I also know what's going on. It's much easier to cut things from the budget than to add things to the budget. So I'm going to start at approximately 15% and I'm going to hold my breath that their high is not higher than my high. So it's going to be ugly, folks. Let's hope.
And just to reiterate, how much are we spending a month on our health insurance premiums now?
The entire bill is over $400,000, but that also includes the amount that some of our staff members pay towards insurance. So as a reminder, people who have single insurance, it's covered at 100%. Anybody who has a dependent or a spouse on it, it's a 70-30 split. And as a reminder, our 70-30 split is lower than most districts around us. Most districts are covering 80, 85, 90, 95. So where ours is our employees are picking up a bigger chunk than most of the other school districts. Yeah, I know. Questions?
Anything else?
Are we done?
We are
Thank you.
adjourned at
Thank
6:43.
you,
Yeah, no problem.
As always.
It's always like.
As always, it's a blast.
Vicky, can we ride home or should I come?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Do you?
Goodness. No. The year is always